Ah, fuck. Yeah, I wear this shirt outside. What you mean? It's got little Mikus on there. It even has the one on the sleeve. Just like Miku. It is currently Friday, February 4th, 2022. And I'm making an end-of-the-year review. How long does it take for people to get tired of end-of-the-year reviews? We're gonna find out, I guess. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Not Weeb Review, because those things take too long, and I decided I wanted to try a weekly upload schedule for 2022, a goal that I set for myself at the beginning of the year that I am already failing. But as our future president, Kanye West, has said before, God saved me from that crash, just so I could do late end-of-the-year reviews. Kanye West and the game really put a skinned monkey for that song cover. They didn't even blur it, they just... Look, I like the song, but every time I go and click to play the song, I get traumatized for 5 seconds because I'm looking at a skinned monkey. So what this video is about is I have a list of shows on my phone here, and I'm going to go through them one by one, just talking about them. You know, these are shows that I didn't really get a chance to review or talk about at all in the past year, but they are shows that I enjoyed. There is a twist, though, with this list. The first 3 shows on this list are going to be future Weeb reviews. I just didn't get a chance to finish the video before 2021, and I wanted to talk about them, so they're going to be in this video as well. So the first anime that is on this list is probably one of the most enjoyable experiences I've had all year, and it's not because it's a good medium, it's not because it's an interesting show with a good story and good characters, but it's a show that is a lot of fun. And the show I'm talking about is Muteking the Dancing Hero. Muteking the Dancing Hero is a remake of the popular... Is it popular? Well, it's a remake of a somewhat popular 80s anime called Muteking the Dashing Warrior. So, as someone who's never seen the original 80s anime, but I have seen one episode of the dub because it was on the website I use, and I thought it would be a funny experience, and it was. I was going into this show completely blind. I had no idea what Muteking was about, no idea what it was or who it was meant for, and when I finished Muteking, I had a pretty positive opinion on it, as it is one of the most enjoyable shows that has been released in the past year. If you're someone who likes outrageous characters, who likes funny anime, who just doesn't take anime all that seriously, this is probably going to be an entertaining 12 episodes for you. One of my favorite things about Muteking the Dancing Hero, though, is the soundtrack, because I do believe the songs in this show are actually good. The opening by Orange Range is pretty entertaining and kind of reminds you of a city pop track, mixed with some elements of more modern pop music, and of course some EDM there as well. And then of course you have the ending, which is a lot more cooler, a lot more quieter, but still entertaining throughout. And then you have the songs that are actually in the show, all pretty good most of the time. You have the 2 Muteking songs. One is the original Muteking song, which I find extremely catchy. And then you have the second Muteking song, which is also featuring the other character in the show, DJ. And that song is more of an actual song. It's not just the original is kind of like a theme song, and the second song is actually a lot more of a song. It has an actual structure, it has actual meaning and a message that it pushes. And I actually like it a lot more. It's a lot more speed rapping in that one. And then of course you have the songs by Aurora, which is the virtual idol. And you also have the song by Ida, who is another character in the show. The Ida song is just a basic idol song. And then you have the 2 Aurora tracks. Well, not 2, there's 3, but I only really like 2. And that's Miscontrol, which is done by popular singer Rior, and Jasmine, which is done by... Rine Yoshida. Rine Yoshida, who does a pretty good job in that song of Jasmine, but Miscontrol is definitely the best song in this show. It's a very loud pop song, If you like that kind of shit, that song is probably gonna be enjoyable to you. Now, one of the things that's more iffy about the show for me is the animation, as there are some really creative shots in this show, but then there are also some shots that just look really basic. For most of the show, it looks pretty basic, and I just feel like it looks so weird, but also you can't take your eyes off it at times. And I just feel like they could have made the show just like that. They could have just made the show more weird, more experimental with its animation, where they're just so weird that it's hard to take your eyes off it. And in a good way, it's definitely something I enjoy. I just wish it was spread out a little more. Overall, it's not a show that I hate. I definitely have a positive opinion on Muteking. It's just one of those shows that is so weird and goofy that you can't take it seriously. It's a cheesy 80s remake, and it knows it's a cheesy 80s remake. And if you like really fun shows and you have some free time, check it out. It was one of those shows that didn't really get critically acclaimed. It wasn't a show a lot of people took positively or had a positive opinion on, and I think that's a little unfair, because I think there are things in the show that is really well done. The next show I'm going to be talking about is probably one of my favorite anime of 2021, that I'm sad I didn't get to finish the video in time, but wow, I have just so much things to say about this show that there is no way I'm going to be able to talk about all of it right now. And that is Jobless Reincarnation. Jobless Reincarnation is one of those isekai where it's perfect. It's perfect to me. There is nothing wrong with Jobless Reincarnation to me. It's in the similar realm as Re:Zero is to me. In fact, I think Re:Zero and Jobless Reincarnation are the best isekai that are out right now. If you want to see the best of the best isekai, watch Jobless Reincarnation and Re:Zero. What makes Jobless Reincarnation so good to me is that it is exactly what an isekai should be. It does everything the best compared to everything else. All the cliches that an isekai has, Jobless Reincarnation does at its very best. The loser protagonist is one of the best characters, one of the best isekai protagonists as well that I've seen in Rudy. And while I get a lot of people who don't like Rudy, and I understand why you don't like Rudy, I feel like I love Rudy for the same reasons people really dislike Rudy. I didn't have a problem with his pervertedness, with his horniness, you could say. I didn't really have a problem with it. It's a similar thing to Aoyagi to me, where Aoyagi, despite being a really good person who helps people, has a character flaw, and that character flaw is that he's horny. But where Aoyagi does it, I feel a lot less than Rudy does it, especially in the beginning of Jobless Reincarnation. Rudy does grow out of it. He is a lot less perverted in the later halves of even the first season. He's a lot less perverted in. And while there are still scenes of that horny Rudy coming out, it's not nearly as common in the second season as when it was in the first season, because he's growing up and he's maturing. A lot of people don't understand that this is a child, and I get that he has the memories of a 30-year-old man. Just because you have the memories of a 30-year-old man, that doesn't mean you don't get affected by all the hormones and all the shit that happens to a younger teenager. The only difference between Rudy and kids in real life that are around his age is that Rudy actually acts upon his thoughts, and he gets bastardized for it. It's not like they're awarding his behavior. He usually gets criticized for it. And the people who do award his behavior are also presented as weirdos. But it's not just Rudy that I enjoy, which I will talk about in the video as well. Another character that got a lot of backlash to him would be Paul, that I really enjoy. I just enjoyed pretty much every character in the show, even the more minor characters like Geese, who appeared for like 3 episodes. I really, really enjoyed him. Or the Beastmen family, I thought were great. All the characters are all pretty well done, especially the main characters, and especially the main girls, which is a really good reason as to why the best girl voting is really tough for this show. I'm an Aries fan, But I understand completely if you like Sylphie or Waxy. Completely understand it, I love them too. And when it comes to the animation, I actually missed out a lot compared to what Kanipa was able to find in his video, so if you want to know even more about Jobless Reincarnation's animation, shit that you might have even missed, because there are really small details that I'm impressed him and his wife were able to find, check out that video, because he really opened my eyes to just how amazing this animation is. How real the characters move, how natural they move. Even as babies, they're able to like mimic exactly how babies are. He uses the example of Aries' swordsmanship being a little bit rusty or a little bit unpolished at the very beginning, and then eventually growing into someone who's a lot more polished as a fighter. Shit like that. Where you can actually see them grow and you can actually see how their fighting style changes overall is probably one of the best things in the animation. The magic used in this show is they move very realistically. Just look at the way the water moves. You know, a lot of isekais use this like Final Fantasy spell bullshit. Jobless Reincarnation doesn't do that, and instead you see the elements form right in front of you, and it's a really nice looking shot every time. And while yes, the animation does look very real at times, it can also be very cartoonish, which what is added into the comedy, with characters like Kirishika popping up and being a very cartoonish character, or whenever Aries is mad. It is a lot of fun while also being an emotional experience. There are a lot of scenes, specifically with the scene with Rudy and Paul after they reunite. It is definitely an emotional scene. Not only is it a fun show, it's also an emotional show. And when it comes to the world building in this show, not only does it look amazing, and they're able to show it off so well. In each and every opening, you see how the world looks, and it adds so much to the show. But also, there is so much depth, so much detail into each aspect of the world, and it never once feels boring. Every city they go to feels like you unlocked a new chapter in a fantasy game. It feels like there's different settings every time. Every city feels different. Every continent, everywhere they go, it feels different. And that's what's so good about it. That's what makes the world feel so fantasy-like, but also feel so real. It is so weird to me. But the soundtrack in the show sounds very RPG, very fantasy-like, which adds to like the fantasy feeling of it, which I feel is how every isekai should feel. I love the voice acting for this show. They're all very talented. They're all very nice. You know, if your girlfriend isn't whispering in your ear, "I want to have your kittens, nya," is she really worth it? Think about that, because Aries did it. I'm just saying, Aries did it. If your first time losing your precious V card doesn't go exactly like how it did for Rudy, including the kittens nya line, does it really count? Like, I don't think it counts. I'm just saying, like, maybe you need to take that shit back. That V card. I'm sorry. She didn't say the line. And it's one of those shows where you can just tell how much passion is in it. And when you can tell just how much the animators and the voice actors and the people who are making the show, when you can tell how fun they're having, how much fun they just seem to be having just working on the show, it really does add a certain feeling that I feel just cannot be replicated with other anime that are just made to be seasonals. They spent like 5 years on this show. They made an entire studio based on this show, and you can tell. You can tell because it's so amazing. It is such a good show. You can tell just how much love and heart they put into it. And I'm so sad. I'm so sad that some people get turned off of such an incredible show because of a morally gray character like Rudy. Because of dumb reasons. Y'all are like gatekeeping yourselves from an amazing show. Those perverted scenes, y'all are complaining about scenes that last for like 10 seconds. You're telling me a couple of scenes that last at maximum 10 seconds will ruin an entire experience for you? I don't get it. I don't get it. Moving on. The final show that I will be making a review on, that I'm going to be talking about, is Komi-San. I wanted to do a review on Komi-San just because I feel like the hype factor did kind of overshadow how good the show is. Like, a lot of people were really hyping up this show, and I feel like it's because of Redditors. I don't want to blame it on just one group of people. Listen, I had a phase where I used to go on all anime memes. Yes, I did go through that phase, and I'd rather not talk about it, but it's relevant. Every, 5 posts would be about Komi-San. This girl didn't even get an adaptation announced yet, and they were making memes about it. I was like, damn, a lot of people like this Komi-San show. Maybe it'll be good. Maybe it's a fucking classic. I feel like once I got out of that circle, once I got out of that phase, I just accepted Komi for what it was, which was a pretty good comedy kind of romance show. So I didn't hold it to a great standard or anything, which I feel a lot of people did. I saw a lot of people nitpicking this show. About Komi-San itself, it's a decent Nah, fuck that. It's a good show about a girl making friends, which is wholesome, it's cute. Komi is a pretty solid character, even if she doesn't talk. Tadano is actually one of my favorites in the show, and I think he is far overhated, for reasons I'll talk about when the video releases. A lot of the side characters, I feel they weren't interesting, but I think that's the point. They're not really there to be in-depth characters, they're there to be friends with Komi, and a lot of them make the show a lot more fun. I don't have an issue with any of them, except for Yamai. I didn't like Yamai. I thought she was annoying. She's fine as a side character, as a one-off gag. I actually did laugh a couple times when she kept on screaming in the background whenever something happened to Komi. But there are some scenes where it's a pretty emotional moment between either Tadano or Komi or some other side character that's more important than Yamai. And we're like, okay, this is a pretty good moment to build some character. And then all of a sudden, Yamai and her posse of 20 people who we have no idea who they are suddenly burst into the scene. And because of that, I'm not a huge fan of Yamai, but other characters, I'm a pretty good fan of. I liked the trap, I liked the Chunabuga. Animation is one of the best parts about the show. I feel they did an amazing job covering a show where it is kind of tough to adapt because the girl doesn't talk. So doing a more manga-type style, I thought was a good move by OLM. And the character designs, making it look a little bit like an older romance show is a good move, but then having these really modern-day, amazing, really ridiculous animation shots at times. I thought it was a cool little balance. It gave the show a bit of a unique feel. Soundtrack was pretty good. I enjoyed the opening. I enjoyed the ending. I feel like a lot of people got swept up into the hype of it, and the show is a little bit bastardized, a little bit more than it should be. It's a solid, good show that if you're a fan of the genre, like me, you will enjoy. As you will find out, I do have a fair bit of romance shows on this list. However, the next show is not one of those, and that is Heaven's Design Team. I skipped the winter season last year because I just wanted a break from anime. However, Heaven's Design Team is one of the shows that I did check out, mostly because it has to do with animals, and I just happen to be a big fan of animals. So I usually watch shows that involve them. I'm not a furry. Michiru is cute though, but that's beside the point. That's beside the point. Heaven's Design Team is a pretty solid comedy about making animals for God. It's not bad. I enjoyed the way the show looked, specifically with the art. I thought it had a pretty good style. I thought it looked kind of unique. I especially liked some of the more out there designs of the characters. The OP, pretty good OP. I actually really like it a lot. It's oddly catchy to me. It's got a good beat to it, a good melody. You can really, shuck and jive to this one. Man, I'm sounding like your grandpa, aren't I? I just go, yeah, a little bit of a shuck and jive on this one. But yeah, it's a decent show. There's not a lot to say about shows like these. So we're gonna move on to Burning Kabaddi. Burning Kabaddi is a show about the sport Kabaddi. Now, I never heard of this sport before because I live in America, and from the way they detail it in the show, it seems like a pretty fun sport. I actually really enjoyed this show a lot, and I enjoyed the sport. Now, anime has a weird relationship with sports where it's kind of a realistic portrayal, but also you have basketball players with fucking superpowers. However, I need to fix this. It is bothering me. However, this does seem like a realistic portrayal. It does seem like this is how the sport really is. I've heard Kabaddi is popular in India. Maybe that's true, maybe that's not, but it seems like a pretty decent little sport to me. I can't really explain the sport off the top of my head and do it justice, so here's a little Google definition for it. If you want to pause it and read it, go ahead. But about the show itself, I really enjoyed the characters. I thought the main guy was a pretty fun and unique portrayal of a sports anime protagonist. He was a pretty popular soccer player, but because of the competitiveness of the sport, he decided he hates sports and he hates everything to do with them. And he became a Twitch streamer. But then eventually he gets blackmailed into doing Kabaddi. And he ends up falling in love with Kabaddi, and you all know how this story goes. But it is a pretty interesting portrayal. It is a pretty interesting main protagonist. So I like him. I also like the other characters in the show. I like the little bald guy. I actually do like the cool looking guy too. I'm not really getting their names right now, so I'll put the pictures up of the characters I'm talking about so you can see them. I really liked that. I really liked those characters. I liked pretty much all the characters in the show, actually. The animation is decent. Honestly, there wasn't a lot about the animation that really wowed me, but it didn't look terrible. I actually do like the art and the character design for the characters as well. I thought they all looked pretty interesting. They're pretty fun character designs. This kid is bald. And the show that I really wanted to review is Uramichi-Oniisan. It is a really good comedy, but there's also bits and pieces of a darker reality. And it's able to balance the darker reality with the comedy very well. It's doing it in a comedic way, but you still get the messages the show is trying to tell. And I thought that was really genius when it comes to the writing. You know, stuff like, you know, these characters are people who failed their dreams and are now hosts of a children's show. And while they play that up for laughs, you can see, like, these characters aren't really that happy. They aren't happy with what they're doing, they aren't happy with their lives. But they have to tell kids these stories and how life is going to treat you. But they also tell them the reality of the situation, that when you grow up, it's not all happy, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Talking about the characters, I thought Uramichi was fun, while also, again, being a pretty realistic portrayal of a guy who lost his dream and is now working as a children's show host. He drinks and smokes a lot, and while yes, they do play his side effects of his addictions for laughs, it's still kind of dark and sad to see. My favorite character is Iketeru, I'm pretty sure his name was. Only because he's voiced by Mamoru Miyano, and I'll get to the voice actors, but I must talk about Miyano's performance as Iketeru because it is my favorite performance of the year. It's really funny to me hearing Miyano giggle at dick jokes. Like, he's not even like bursting out laughing at them. He's just going like... He said penis. Like, that's his whole character, and I find that hilarious. He's aloof, he's an idiot, and he's innocent. All three at the same time, and it's really funny. It's really funny to me. And of course you have Uramichi, who aren't any of these things, and you have the girl, who isn't any of these things. And then you just have him, who's just... an idiot. The other side characters I really enjoyed as well. The guy who made the dolls. And then you have the guy who is perfectly normal. He's a perfectly normal character, but all the ladies want him. And he says no to them because he only likes 2D girls. And I wasn't expecting that at all. The girls in this show are like, hey, do you have a girlfriend? And he's like, yeah. You wanna see her? The voice acting performances, I've already mentioned Miyano, who does a great performance as Iketeru, but really every character has a really good voice actor that voices them. It is a stacked cast. I really enjoyed the opening. I thought it fit the childish nature of the show. This girl at the very beginning, who is staring straight at the camera and not doing any of the activities. Why? But then I thought about it and I was like, oh, because a child would naturally be a little puzzled and a little curious if there was a camera crew watching them. And once you watch the opening, you will see kids that aren't doing the stuff because they're kids. Some kids aren't gonna follow the leader like that. So I thought that was a pretty nice touch with the show. The next show we're gonna be talking about is, I gotta open up my notes, Fruits Baskets. Another one of my favorite shows of last year. Do I want to say this? Do I want to say this? Am I gonna say this? I'ma say it. It's a classic. It's a classic, boys. It's a classic anime. It's what it is. I was really fighting with myself to finish this show because I knew I had to finish it and I liked it, but did I really want to go through the pain? One day I just said, yeah. All of these characters are interesting. You will not find a one-note character in this show. Whether it's played for laughs or it's serious, it doesn't matter. All the characters in the show have some kind of depth to them. Every single one. And while I'm not a fan of all of them, mostly Kawaii was annoying, I still did find her character at least interesting. I thought it was pretty cool how she pretended to have a higher voice because she wanted to seem cuter. And she is a girl who gets a ton of guys because of her cute voice, while in reality she has a lot more violent tendencies and has a much deeper voice. But the cast in this show has to be one of the best I've seen. You have characters like Toru, who while yes may seem a one-note basic harem protagonist at the very beginning, really I think her character has a lot more depth than people like to think. And I feel like her character is a lot more interesting. It's not just a girl. The main focus, all the boys surrounding her. She does have a character. She is interesting. She is not one note. She's a great character. The reason why the drama, I feel, hits so well in this show is because you care so much about these characters that when the reality is finally introduced, that these characters cannot be free, that they are stuck and they are trapped by this bond that just holds them in place. You are sad because these characters that you like cannot be free. They cannot be with the ones they love. They cannot do the things they want to do. They can't even have a regular life. And it's not because of any... And it's not their fault. They were born with these zodiacs. It's not even their fault that they're stuck in this system. Even characters who start off unlikable grow to be likable. Characters like Win, for example, who I felt was kind of a cunt at the beginning. I actually cared about her story a lot towards the end. And Akito, who is, yes, the antagonist, is still a really solid character because it wasn't even his fault that he was a dick. I mean, he was born with this idea that I am the king. I am the god. These animals must obey me because these people that were around him kept giving him that idea. They kept beating it into his brain that eventually he grew up to be an egotistical maniac. And yes, while Akito is the source of all their problems, he is a victim of the same things that they're going through. He's a victim of this mindset that we all have to be together, we all have to be trapped in this bond. One of the issues with this show is I feel a lot of the characters forgave Akito a little too quickly. Who knows all of this mental trauma that he put on all of these zodiacs, and they just kind of forgave him immediately. That's why I was kind of thankful for a character like Win, who at the very end never forgave Akito. Because why would she? He kept her away from her beloved for years. He attacked their relationship for years. Why the hell would she immediately forgive him? But a lot of the other characters in the show just kind of forgive Akito. And I just think that happened a little bit too soon. But that is my one issue with this show. The animation, looks great at times. I feel like they nailed the settings out of the park. They nailed the character designs out of the park. And when it comes to remaking an anime, I feel a lot of anime fans get turned off by the remakes because, I mean, a lot of anime remakes aren't as good as the original. But I feel Fruits Baskets, while I've never seen the original, I feel Fruits Baskets is such a great show that the remake did such a good job. I feel like. I've never seen the original, so I wouldn't know, but just how much time they gave to these characters. A lot of characters had like an episode or two even of just straight backstory. A lot of these characters had so many great moments together, really built their relationships, and each of the openings were also very good to me. I thought, while I wasn't a big fan of the first and the second ones, I still appreciated them for what they were. My favorite opening is Home, because that beat sounds so smooth. Whew, it sounds so smooth. I did also enjoy the season 3 one. Also, you had guys singing that one. There was a male idol group just going hard. Pressure. Or was it Pleasure? I think it's Pleasure. I'm stupid. The next show I'm going to be talking about, I don't have to talk about as long as the previous two shows I was talking about because it's a stupid isekai that I for some odd reason put on this list. It's Cheap Pharmacist Slow Life. It's another one of these shows that's kind of like Muteking, where I like... The difference is at least Muteking has like a story that progresses as cheesy as it was intended to be. That doesn't happen in this show. And I still watched all of it and enjoyed it because, as I've said before, cuteness is the most important part of anime. It's just a cute little isekai show. I feel like a lot of people missed out on this one because people were harsh on it to begin with. I don't know, I think the manga is like good or something, but like who cares? It has cuteness in it. But yeah, there's not a lot to say about this show. Besides, like, look at her. Look at her. You're telling me you wouldn't watch a show with this in it? Look at her. Come on. The final show on this list is another romance show that takes place in the Taisho era. It is Taisho Otome Fairy Tale. Taisho Otome Fairy Tale is an extremely adorable show that kind of exceeded my expectations. Because when I first watched this show, I had the expectation of a cute girl that takes care of a guy who is depressed, who can't really take care of himself, so he has a cute lolly to do all the house chores and shit. Pretty similar to a show like Senko-san. But what I actually got out of Taisho Otome was a lot better than Senko-san, even though I love Senko. I'm sorry, Senko, I didn't mean to say that about you. It is a lot more than a show about a girl taking care of a guy. It's actually an extremely well-built romance between the two characters. And if you can get over the age difference, which I know is going to bother some people out there, but it's anime. It's not real. It's not real. It was even legal to do back then. We're talking about an era where the age of 15 was considered an adult. Do y'all really care? Like, the relationship is extremely cute, extremely well built. I thought Tamahiko was a really good character, very fun to follow, because he's like a pessimist who hates the world, but then this lolly comes in and changes his whole life. But over time, he does get happier. He does accept that the world isn't as bad as he thought it was. And even though his family hates him, he still loves life because he's with the person who helped him live, basically. And I think that's a cute premise. Another character I appreciated was Tamako, who I thought was pretty annoying to begin with, but over time she does grow into a lot more of a likable character. She is a character who does care about Yuzu, who is the little lolly character. She cares about her a lot, to the point where they kind of have a sisterly sibling type of relationship. Also, I like this little detail towards the end of the show, because we don't see Yuzu for a while until the end of the show. And when we see her, she actually has her braids done in the exact same way as Yuzu's braids, which I thought was a really nice touch, because that kind of shows just how much Yuzu means to Tamako, that she changed her entire hairstyle up. Speaking of character design, I do love how you can tell when Tamahiko was depressed because he looks depressed and tired. But when he's around Yuzu, you see pretty much all those marks go away, which I thought was nice. I thought that was cool. Animation-wise, the show has its moments. I do think there are a lot of creative shots in there, a lot of creative uses. And when it comes to the art style, I think they absolutely nailed the setting of older, like 1920s-ish style. I thought they nailed that out the park. It looks very nice. And the music in this show, specifically done by Kotori, I'm pretty sure her name was, are pretty amazing songs done by Kotori there. I think all the characters were pretty good. I thought they all looked nice. I thought the setting looked very nice. Just all around a really cute show about two people falling in love. That'll do it for this video. I know this is a little bit weird. I know this is a little bit different, but I thought this was a fun idea, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. And with all that out the way, I'm Kikaya, and have a good breakfast tomorrow.